Hello, everybody. This is Nathan Davis, again from Cryptid Studies Institute, and I just wanted to post a video. I just watched Rick Dyer's latest video. I can't wait till February 9th. I'm hoping that this will be the end of the whole thing and that we will uh, be rid of him, but I have my doubts. I think that he's going to milk this as long as he can, first off. Second off, I don't think this is it for him. Um, and he's saying some very interesting and very contradictory kind of things. I mean, first off, he says in the video, which is basically why there's no conference on February 9th, which is when he was supposed to have the conference. He opens up and says that, yes, we're going to have a conference. But then in the sentence right after that, he says, no, we're not going to have a conference, and then goes into the reasons why. Now, another thing that he contradicts himself on is the fact that he sits there and says in 2008 that he had a real experience and that the hoax didn't start out as a hoax. Well, the reason this is contradictory to what he said after it was they came out and said it's a hoax was he said, it's Bigfoot. It's not real. So why would somebody who has a real experience admit to a hoax, and in the admission of the hoax say, well, Bigfoot's not real, so who cares? So he's contradicting himself all over the place, which is to be expected with somebody that's can come up with huge lies. He is getting press conferences. He is getting notoriety for this, but it's apprehensive in a lot of ways because a lot of people are skeptical, and justifiably so. I mean, the man lied in '08, admitted it, but admitted it by saying Bigfoot's not real. Who cares? So now he's saying, well, I had a real experience in '08 that led into this hoax. There's no explanation as to how it snowballed into Bigfoot's in my freezer hoax, but whatever. So he has that, and then he says he is having a press conference on February 9th, but he isn't. And it's like confusing. My mind couldn't wrap around the statement. I'm guessing he's getting financial backing. I'm guessing he's got people that are giving him money. I guess. I have no idea. I do know that he has those, like I said, that are looking for fame and fortune in the Bigfoot industry, grasp at whatever comes along, like Tom Biscardi did in '08. Tom Biscardi is a notable person that basically grasps at anything that will give him notoriety and fame and money. He's a gold digger in the Bigfoot industry. I'm sorry. It's true. Look at the track record. I'm going by the track record. I'm not going by, just off the top of my head opinion. I'm going by his track record. And the same thing with Rick Dyer. Many people, and that's another thing, is that many people are saying, well, just ignore him, he'll go away. That's the same thing that many of us said in '08. And here we are, 5 years later. Well, almost 5. Well, yeah, 6 years later, actually. 6 years. And he didn't go anywhere. He kept the website up. He was doing all kinds of different things. Putting out videos. He's been doing this since '08. He never went away. He's not going to go away if you ignore him. So I say we have to kind of fight fire with fire. I appreciate those skit videos that people do. I did one myself. It was lame, I admit it, but I did that because that's how he comes across. He's a very egomaniac type person that is making it out, and I know why he's doing it. He's trying to egg people on. He's trying to get people angry and to attack him and things of that nature. And this time I say attack him. Don't relent, but don't make it too personal. Take it through the facts that have been presented, the contradictions, the track record, the lack of evidence that he says he's presented. I mean, he says he's presented all this evidence. Not really. I mean, the video, the tent video, doesn't match the body that was presented. As far as the pictures of the body, there has not been a body actually presented. There's videos of reactions of normal, ordinary people. But there hasn't been a body actually shown yet. Only pictures that don't look real. It looks like some taxidermy made form. I mean, it doesn't look like it was ever a living Bigfoot. So, yeah, he hasn't presented any evidence. He talks about he's presented, I don't know if it was this video or which one it was, but he talks about how he has provided the most Bigfoot evidence ever. Okay. What are you talking about? I mean, you provide pictures. You talk about the tent video. And you talk about Shooting Bigfoot, which is a documentary that doesn't really show, from what I've heard, I haven't watched it, the shooting of the Bigfoot. Now, before this came out, he said that was the reason that he could not show the body, was because he had to wait for the documentary to come out. Then the documentary comes out, no body. And then all of a sudden he says, well, there's not going to be any body. I figured that was his escape clause. Now he's, got this taxidermy thing that he's going to take on tour around the country. Something similar to the Minnesota Iceman. But with the Minnesota Iceman, if you read the history of the Minnesota Iceman, and it's, I think, 10 to 15 year history, in the beginning, the body looked real. It was in ice, and they had scientists come out there and look at it. Now, they didn't thaw it or anything like that, but they took pictures and they examined it as best they could through the ice, and they were convinced it was a real body. Then years later, people were shown something that looked fake. So it seems something happened to the real body over time, according to people that saw it. With this, right off the bat, it's fake. Right off the bat, you look at the pictures, it doesn't look real. And, I say, use his facts, use his contradictions against him. Don't go into name calling, don't go into stuff like that. That's what he wants. But if you can take and you can string the stuff together to show that he is not being authentic in his interpretation of events, then we can prove that he's hoaxing once again. Now, he's saying that he's not. And I will say this, that if he isn't, and it is proven without a shadow of a doubt, I will apologize. I will post a video apologizing to Rick Dyer for saying that he was a hoaxer in this event. I don't think I'm going to have to do that, though. And the reason being is that the evidence presented doesn't convince me that Rick Dyer is being honest. And then he says a lot of contradictory things. He does not stay on par and that is an obvious sign of deception. Now, there's normal uh, forgetfulness where you're going through an event that happened years ago, and you forget certain events. The timeline of events that can happen, but when you can entirely change things and say one thing and then another. I mean, here in one video, he contradicted what he said, and we're gonna have a conference, but we're not. This is why. It just didn't make any sense to me. The fact that the Hank caricature, I guess you call it, has changed so much. From the Muskie Allen drawing, descriptive drawing, to the body, to the video, to all of the, you just get all these different looks to supposedly one being. Sorry, my dog's snoring. So that just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand, again, why these different people have decided to throw their career on their and their notoriety and can't hunt for the word right now. Can't think of it. But they have put themselves on the line for Rick Dyer. And as I've stated before, I just don't understand that. Other than they are people looking for fame and fortune within this industry. They think they're going to be a part of something huge, something big. And some of them I don't think realize they're being taken along for a ride. There are certain people that just, are gullible. Plain and simple. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I just don't understand how people can believe this. I look at the pictures of the face and the body, and I'm just like, I don't understand how you can see this as being a real, authentic body. It might be real fur this time. It's not acrylic. Ooh. It's not some, fake fur. But that's not hard to do. I mean, it's not like Bigfoot's the only furry creature out there. I mean, you get bear or something like that. And make yourself a Bigfoot by stringing pelts together. I mean, taxidermy has changed. It really hasn't changed. I mean, like I've said before, P.T. Barnum was notorious for having sideshows that were taxidermied works of art. Basically, they would take a monkey and a fish and make a mermaid. Do all these different things, and they were just sideshow attractions. And people would see him go, "Ooh," as he said, a sucker is born every minute. And I think that there's quite a few people that have just bought into this that, are suckers. They're grasping for straws. And like I said before, it will hurt your career. It will hurt your notoriety within the industry. And it will hurt your credibility. But that's a risk you have taken, backing up somebody that is a known hoaxer and sight unseen on the body. Most of them are going by Muskie Allen, who I think has recanted his statements, saying that Rick Dyer does not have a body. There's been a number of people kicked out of Team Tracker that have denounced that Rick Dyer has a body and said that he's a hoaxer. But he is getting some press conferences. I watched one where he had in Australia. And at the end they said, well, maybe we'll have you back on after the press conference. It was kind of a reluctant offer because they kind of weren't convinced that he had anything. And of course, he came off very arrogant and egotistical about his, credentials and who he is in the industry and all that. I just don't get it. I really don't. Other than, he just wants to pull another fast one and make a quick buck. And, there are all these people who say he should go to jail and he should be sued. Well, there's really not much you can do legally unless you can prove some sort of fraud here. And, that's going to be tough to do. I mean, how many court attorneys are going to defend you when you say, well, I believe this guy had a Bigfoot body, and he didn't. And, he took all this money from me. Most attorneys are going to laugh at you like, okay, so you believed a guy that hoaxed in '08 that he had a body again. You really don't have a case. The judge isn't going to more than likely let it go to trial because there's no case there. Good luck trying to get him arrested. They didn't do it in '08. They can't. There's nothing there. There's no, there's nothing that they can get him on. And if Tom Biscardi, really lost all that money, he would have won a lawsuit against him. He couldn't. So yeah, there's nothing that's going to be done to him legally, more than likely, unless his backers have some kind of contract, airtight contract that he signed that basically states that he has to have a real body. I don't know, but that's on him, But yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. I really don't. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. And I would say this time, don't ignore him. I was on that bandwagon of just ignore him, he'll go away. Until about a year ago, and then it's like, okay, so he's doing this again, and then when I saw all the people getting on the bandwagon, I'm like, wait a minute, what? And then I was like, okay, wait, this is just, something doesn't, seem right here. And then I decided, you know what, ignoring him isn't obviously working. So we need to pick a new strategy that will hopefully work to get rid of him entirely. And, I mean, really, I think that just making him a laughingstock, making him somebody that, the sight of will make people go, Rick, oh, that guy. He will never have credibility. If this comes out entirely as a hoax, this should be the last time it happens. Like the boy that cried wolf. This should be it. And I think that everybody should turn his back on him. And turn your back on those that backed him. Even, if they denounced him later. They led up to this. Plain and simple. They led up to this. They allowed his notoriety to gain because they backed him up. Those that trusted their opinion. Those that respected their views. Gave Rick Dyer a chance because they said he's telling the truth this time. So even if you denounced Rick Dyer after the fact, I still think that if you are somebody of notoriety that's respected in the industry, put your name behind him at any point because you led people down that path. you allow people to believe this because, hey, you're so-and-so and you're respected. So, yeah. I really feel sorry for Jeff Meldrum in all this. I mean, the video of them burning his book. And Wayne, I think from Dallas and Wayne, was the one that lit it on fire. I don't get it. You know, I mean, of course, Dallas and Wayne have stated that, you know, a number of times they want fame they want fame and fortune, basically. They want to be in a Bigfoot museum and all that. And nothing against them and their research. I think that they're honest believers in Bigfoot. I've met Dallas a number of times. He is genuine in his belief in Bigfoot. But they've gotten on the bandwagon. And, you know, that's the thing is you know, he keeps attacking Jeff Meldrum, and it's like calling him, you know, a phony and all that. And I'm like, dude, you know, of all the people to attack, and he's doing that to just rile people up and to call him names and stuff like that. Because for some reason, I think he gets off on that. I really don't know, but it just appears that way from what he's doing. Is that he gets off on, you know, getting people's goats. And for me, I just say this. You know, go again with factual information, his contradictions, all these different things, but don't make it a personal attack and don't sit there and call him names. You know, I'm not going to put his family down. I'm not going to call him names, but I will say that, you know, he's contradicting himself. His pictures aren't accurate, and now he just released this video saying he is, but he isn't going to have some conference on February 9th. So, you know, yeah. Let's use logic. Let's use logic in defeating him. Let's use his own words in defeating him. Let's not use personal attack, because we should be better than he is, you know, in the end. Don't stoop to his level. Now, I'm fine with people, you know, making the videos where they're making fun of what he's saying, because of the simple fact that you're using what he's saying in a comical way. You're not adding anything to it. You're not calling him names or anything like that. You're just saying, okay, this makes no sense, and let's look at it in a comical sense. And maybe you'll see that this is just totally warped. So yeah, my video was basically, you know, I came up with a character, Rick Dyer. Doesn't even sound like him. I don't even look like him. But I just wanted to show that the ludicrous nature of what he's presenting. It doesn't look real. And yeah, ignoring him isn't going to work. We know that. Personally attacking him, he gets off on that. I'm almost certain that he gets off on personal attacks because, you know, vicious personal attacks. He loves it. I think he thrives on that or something, because why would you go after Jeff Meldrum? Why would you go after certain key figures unless you wanted to invoke, you know, a venomous attack? But using his contradictions, his words, you know, his evidence against him is key, because that will hopefully result in this being the last time we hear the name Rick Dyer in any kind of context for future evidence. You know, we need legitimate evidence. We need people out there validating the existence. Now, I've stated that a number of times, that when I was out in the field, I was trying to validate the existence to hopefully bring about scientific study. I was not out there trying to prove their existence. I didn't want to do that because I was conflicted. I still am. We prove their existence. There's a downfall, and if we don't prove their existence, there's a downfall. And that's a conflict. That's a personal conflict. But it's weighing the positive and negatives. And I don't want to kill one. I don't want to capture one. I think a lot of the ludicrous groups out there that come up with all kinds of different methods for capturing one, I'm like, I debated with somebody that was talking about using tranquilizer darts. I did extensive research on tranquilizer darts because, a lot of people brought that up and said, why can't you use that? And I wanted to have a legitimate answer to that question. Why can't you tranquilize a Bigfoot? And I did extensive research in tranquilization and how it works and the methods used and all that. Well, you have to know the animal. You have to know the weight, basically the weight ratios. You have to know all manner of things about that animal to create a tranquilizer dart that will knock the animal out, but not kill the animal, and not under tranquilize them where they're drugged, but still, awake. So you have to reach this very, very fine point in which to use tranquilizers. Now I know this is going off on a tangent, different from Rick Dyer, but still, this is going into different groups that just come up with ideas, and I've already basically looked into them and found that it's just impractical to do that. Since we don't have enough information about a Bigfoot, the chances are that you could either, one, kill one, or two, it won't have enough effect to actually knock the Bigfoot out. So either you're going to piss it off or you're going to kill it. You're not going to do an effective job of tranquilizing it. The other thing is, you don't know how long that tranquilizer is going to last because you don't know the metabolism of a Bigfoot. You don't know a number of different things that would tell you the time frame that you have. When they tranquilize a tiger, or they tranquilize an elephant, all that, they know within, an approximation of how long they have. And they usually go 5 minutes sooner away from that animal than what they have. They don't want to take it up to the point when the tranquilizer dart wears off. And they try not to re-tranquilize because the chances are that if you keep giving more and more, that the heart and the lungs will be paralyzed and stop. So that is not an effective method of trying to down a Bigfoot. One or the other is going to happen. It's either going to be pissed off or it's going to be dead. And if you're trying to use this as a non-lethal method, you're going to fail. Then there's this group called Tase Bigfoot. Now, I don't know much about that group, but if they're talking about using a taser, either the shotgun type taser, or a taser where it shoots the barbs, because there is one that you can put into a shotgun. It's in a shotgun shell, and when you fire it, it sends out these probes, and a little package that's attached to it that has the battery pack and the capacitor and all the electronics. And that's for longer range than what you can reach with the handheld taser gun that fires the barbs. It goes further. Well, either method more than likely isn't going to work. We don't know if that would paralyze, cause temporary paralysis of the Bigfoot or not, or if it could have some kind of reactive where their heart stops, causing an arrhythmia or some other, heart failure, whatever. So again, you could either kill the Bigfoot or piss the Bigfoot off. It's impractical. So you have people, and I've talked to people that are pro-kill, and they say the only way you're going to prove the existence of Bigfoot is by killing one. Well, yeah, you will prove their existence, but that's it. You will never learn any more from a body than, basic stuff. You don't learn about their socialization, anything like that. So I do, appreciate the habitators and, the Jane Goodall approach. There's some negatives I see with habitation because of possibly creating codependency, changing natural, habits. I think, though, we're dealing with a creature that's way more intelligent than bears and raccoons and other, unintentionally habituated animals. Bears are unintentionally habituated because they go through your garbage can, or they are fed in parks to a point where they become unafraid of people, and they see them as a food source, which is very dangerous. So I don't see that. That's the only thing that might be an issue, but but I've seen more stuff come from those that are experimenting, trying to figure out some way of communicating, and instead of call blasting, which again, you don't know what you're saying, you only garner a call, a return call that you don't know what it means. So there's nothing garnered from it except, oh, I got a response. We already know that audio track isn't going to prove anything. Video might, if it's very clear, that might be enough, but doubtful. I think that they're really going to force it to be, a body or something like that, or that you can basically track them and provide enough evidence that way. Through tons of video documentations, DNA from multiple specimens, all kinds of different things. And there are those out there working on that. And I appreciate that more than those that want to go out and shoot one. For the simple fact that you learn a lot more from a creature through habitual studies. There might be some drawbacks, but you learn, a lot more from habitual studies than you ever would from killing one, because the only thing you'll learn is about that one individual that you killed. Its DNA, its diet, its skeletal structure, things like that. So you would gain the physical aspects of it, but you would not gain the social aspects, the dietary habits. Now, you might learn about that one individual's dietary habits, but you won't learn about the broader spectrum. So, yeah. If Rick Dyer did kill one, which, again, I 100% doubt, I wouldn't back him up for the simple fact that he killed one. That I don't see that as a reasonable solution to this question, a reasonable answer to the question. Now, if one is found dead, and you're able to take the remains and garner something from it, then fine. But that, I think, would be highly unlikely. So I've gone off on multiple tangents here, but yeah, I've done so many different areas of study just to answer questions because that's what I get posed a lot. I'm not somebody that goes out in the field as much as I used to. After my daughter was born, I really slowed down. My daughter was born premature and had some health issues that we worked through, and that was my focus. My primary focus was being there for my daughter, and now my wife's pregnant with our second child. It's going to be my primary focus as well. My children are my primary focus. So I've kind of pulled back as far as field research. I still have people ask ask my opinion and questions. I'm appreciative that people respect my opinion on stuff. And so that's why I go looking for various answers to questions that are not always posed by people in the field, but posed by, the average individual that has no idea that Bigfoot is a species, but thinks it's like Santa Claus and it's one individual. I've had so many people over the years that when you talk about multiple Bigfoots or that they're a species, they're in shock. And that to me is just, it doesn't make any sense, but I guess because, people have been, I guess you consider brainwashed by the media into believing that Bigfoot is an individual and not a species. They're shocked to hear that there's more than one. I mean, to me, it just seems illogical. It's kind of like the Loch Ness Monster. I mean, any kind of species, any kind of creature, for its existence, there has to be more than one. There has to be a viable group to provide, sustainable genetic coding to sustain the population, a healthy population. But yeah, I just, I've stayed in it for information purposes. Cryptidsi.org, the Cryptid Studies Institute, that is an open forum. That we share information, and I haven't had a lot of people posting or asking to put stuff up on the website lately. But if you have anything you want to put up, pictures, audio, whatever, let me know, and I will be more than happy. I'll listen to it if it's something that I feel is authentic, as well as my colleagues, Johnny Henderson and Gene McCulley. Then yeah, we'll post it up on our website with name recognition, and your website if you have it. Have one. We're not a group, and that's another thing. Yeah, this is my tangent video, I guess. That's another thing, is the groups. I've been a part of many groups. No, not many. A few. I'm not going to go into names. I'm not going to name the groups. I've been ahead of one of the, I think, 3 or 4 groups I've been a part of. And the problem is that they become too political. They become too standardized. They become too distrusting of everybody. And that's the one thing that's a turnoff to me, is that the politics that becomes involved. That's not what I got into it for. Was politics. And it's just something that I think really causes a lot of problems. And the fact that there's so many different groups out there. I try to create a kind of hub, and I wanted it to be where all these groups could get together. Regional, national, whatever. Could all get together, and if there was gaps within their research areas where they didn't have researchers or whatever, that something could be worked out. A generalized research list and requirement that could be shared amongst the groups. And basically, you'd have one group doing the research for this other group. They would use standardized questions, standardized research tactics, and both groups would get the reward of information from what was garnered from the tip or whatever, the sighting report, you know. But that fell through, and the main reason is because I started, I went around to all these different groups that, and I pitched the idea, pitched the organizational idea, and it's like, well, we do it this way, and these other groups they're just not doing it right. They're not doing it like, and it's just treated like a religion. No, that's not scientific. We need to standardize research in a lot of ways in order to garner useful information. And there are some that are, using standard forms and be inventive in it as well. I mean, I think with my idea, I was open to suggestions and ideas, but people are just, and these groups are so close-minded and so loyal to the group that they don't want to work with anybody else. And that's caused a lot of the problems with furthering research is groups. They don't want to work with one another. And I've heard so many people talk about that. And I'm done with groups. I am done with Bigfoot groups. I think that it is an archaic apparatus. I will deal with people within the groups and on an individual basis, but I will never be a part of a group. And that is the choice of those that want to be a part of that group. That's perfectly fine. And small groups is fine. I mean, if you're a group of friends that get together and you go out in the woods, that's different. I'm talking about people that set up groups and then they have membership and they do all this and they create this political hierarchy, which a number of groups have. It becomes poisonous, becomes very poisonous, because it becomes too political, and you take all the fun out of doing the research because you become paranoid. There's so many rules, regulations, and all this. You become paranoid about not doing the wrong thing, or about being kicked out of the group, losing status, or whatever. So yeah. And with Cryptid Studies Institute, we're not a group. We use the word institute because you think institute, you think of learning, you think of information exchange, and that's what we are. I set up the website so that anybody, an individual, you don't have to be associated with us, can put their information, their sighting report, their pictures, whatever, and have a place to put it. And they'll get recognition. I always give recognition. I never put anything up and just say, provided by the Cryptid Studies Institute, or whatever. I make sure that you get recognition. If you have a website, I make sure that it's listed. I make sure that credit is given. But I don't sit there and associate with groups anymore. Again, I will associate with the individuals of the groups. And some of the, one of the group that I was with previously, I still know some of the people. And I don't know if they're still with a group because I never really talk about that. I leave it alone. It's in the past. It's not worth bringing up the past. And I'm not gonna. That's not what this part is about. I'm not bringing this up to bash anybody, put anybody down, because that doesn't get us anywhere. All I'm stating is that, you know, to me, the mindset of groups is archaic. It does not advance the studies any further. It kind of conforms people into a certain mindset. So I think it limits creativity and ingenuity within the researcher realm, and it makes people afraid to share ideas that might be controversial to that group. And so I think it stifles innovation and creativity in a lot of ways. Again, smaller groups, less than 10, or whatever, maybe 20. If you've got a small group of friends that you get together on the weekends and you go out and all that, and you have a website, and that's fine. I don't see any issue with that, because your friends, you are working together. But there are bigger groups out there that have a political hierarchy. They have all these different constructs. Again, I've been a part of that. And in the end, its failure is the political construct. It just causes a paranoia. And I say that because I've witnessed it. It causes paranoia. It causes overregulation, too many rules, and a stifling of innovation and ingenuity. I think that if from the concept of what I've come up with, it's kind of like the free market. It's kind of like something where anybody can contribute to it. Of course, you had to get with me so I can post it for you, but because it's a website that I maintain, but I have no problem with putting that stuff up there, and I make sure you get again, notoriety, and I make sure that if you have any information that you want to provide with whatever you're showing, it's there. And there's no strings attached. There's nothing where you have to follow certain rules in order for your stuff to be up there. I think a lot of things need to change within the Bigfoot community for us to really go forward and really provide something substantial. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to stop, further research or future endeavors scientifically. I think eventually it will happen. There's those that are actually against it, but I don't think it's going to stop. I think because of the groups, I just think it's hindered a lot. I think it's kind of like a bunch of anchors out there putting a drag on the research, because nobody trusts anyone in this, and it's kind of like, oh my God, if we worked as individuals together in an amalgamation, kind of like an amoeba, where it's just this globule type thing, but there's open sharing in a lot of ways. We'd probably be a lot further than what we are now. When groups became created, and especially with the internet, that's when I saw a lot of the kind of brakes being put on, and just infighting. Because you have those that are part of this group that are loyalists to that group, and it causes so many problems. And I just think we need to advance. We need to move on. We need to go into open sharing and standardizing research in a lot of ways. I mean, coming up with, okay, this should be how we should do it. And maybe that's something I'll post on the website. I'll do some research, come up with what would be a good idea for coming up with something. There was a program that I was, passing out and using because I thought it was at least a step in the right direction, where this guy created a basic program that where you had your different questions for someone that you're interviewing, a place for pictures, a place for sound recordings, and all that associated with one file for one case. And it was a brilliant idea. I think I might have it on the website. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was. I thought it was a step in the right direction because at least it was a standard format, and you know, you could change it, you could adjust it. I mean, if you wanted to, you could make your own program, your own version, and adjust it, and then distribute it. Say, hey, look what I've come up with, and I think that's what we need to do is we just need to have that kind of standardization. And yeah, we can look at ones like BFRO and others where they've come up with these A, B, C reporting sightings and all, and take note from what they're doing, but tweak it a bit. But I think that's a step in the right direction, is if we can come up with some kind of standardized form of research. I think a lot of people go out there, and that's fine. If you go out there and it's just a hobby and you go out there and do your own thing, great. But if you really get into this and if you want to be a part of a group, you're part of a group, whatever, suggest the standardization of research. And there's certain groups that I think their standardization of research is not cohesive, and they wing it, and that creates gaps in information, which if you had the standardization, you could get it all done at the time, and if you need to, that information is there, because some information you can't go back and collect later. It has to be done right then and there. Especially, if you're taking down a sighting report, you're going to visit the person, and you want to get the best and most accurate version of what happened. You have to get there as quickly as possible. And you want to get as much information as possible. That's the thing. Within research, you want to get the most information as soon as possible, because the human mind, as time goes on, this doesn't, necessarily keep the information very well. We sometimes, our brains alter things that occur. We can tell the story a billion times and it'll change. Where the hell do tall tales come from? It's the human mind. Relatively, it comes from something that really happened, or a real person, but over time that story just gets altered and changed. And within the human mind, it happens as well. Within events of our own lives, certain things can change, and we can't go back to what it was. So again, I think we need to work on standardization. I think we need to work on being individual researchers working together, instead of being part of groups that are just paranoid about everyone. And I've seen that with most of the groups I've been with. Well, actually, all the groups, which is a short list, and even groups I'm not a part of. Again, with the project I did, where I was trying to make a hub where groups could work together, and there would be a cross-sharing of information, where both would gain. I just found that there was just such a lack of trust between groups that it wouldn't work. And there's such this loyalist mentality between members of groups that we're the best. We've got the best group. It just I grew out of that mentality. When it came to research, I grew out of that mentality, and I realized that it won't work. It's not going to create viable information. I don't watch Finding Bigfoot. I think I watched maybe one episode, and the reason is the mentality, the ego. You know, it's like it's more about the ego of the individuals than it is about really the research. And I just, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. I mean, if you have to every 5 minutes state you're an expert, how much of an expert are you? I mean, you really shouldn't have to state you're an expert. Your information should show that. And within the field of Bigfoot, within the field of cryptozoology as a whole, I don't see anybody as an expert. Now, they might be an expert in their chosen field, like biology or, you know, anthropology or whatever. That's different. But I don't consider anybody an expert. You can't be an expert in something that's unknown. Now, you might know more than some certain other people, but there's a lot of aspects of this realm that are unknown, you know? Now, if you're somebody that could do like Jane Goodall, take me into an area and describe all the behaviors, have one come up to me, all these different things, then I might consider you an expert because you've learned certain behavioral aspects and how to communicate. But we don't have that yet. So yeah, I think it's one of those things that's passed around all the time. I'm an expert. I'm an expert Bigfoot researcher. Really? Really? Well, then take me out in the woods and have me shake hands with one. Show your communication prowess with one. Show your understanding of their social behaviors. There's a lot of, speculative experts that just sit there and speculate. But if you call blast, that's not communication. That is a form of rendering a response. It does not denote anything. Now, call blasting when it comes to coyotes or owls or birds or whatever are done by people within that chosen field that actually know what a number of those communications mean. Through observation, through, long, extensive research within these social behaviors of these animals. We haven't had that. So you're blasting stuff out there that you have no concept of what it means. That does not denote an expert to me. If you can get one's curiosity and have it come around, maybe, does not denote an expert. It just means that you have learned certain tricks to insinuate curiosity, or instigate, curiosity within these Bigfoot. But if you do it so many times, they're like, it's just those guys blasting this crazy crap into the woods. Just ignore it. So, yeah. There has to be extensive research. And call blasting, as call blasting goes, especially unknown recordings, you really don't... It's, purported Bigfoot recording. My computer's gonna die. But there's not enough information there to really understand what they're communicating. So when you blast it out there, you have no idea what you're communicating. And that does not denote an expert. Saying conjecturous ideas in a confident manner does not make you an expert. It just means that you're very confident in your information and your speculative evidence. But that does not make you an expert. And when I say I don't consider anyone in the Bigfoot world an expert, that also includes myself. So, yeah, I think it's stupid when people sit there and say, I'm an expert Bigfoot researcher, or cryptozoologist. That there's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's such thing as a Bigfoot, but there's no such thing as a Bigfoot expert. And I know there's going to be people sitting there going, and they might comment, that's fine. Say, oh, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I've met a number of people within this field over the years, and even those with extensive, knowledge and experience, and they've seen a number of them, heard all kinds of different things. A number of them would not consider themselves experts because they understand the meaning. When it comes to a scientific understanding, to be an expert in a field is a very, very big thing. And there's just, you don't know what the meaning of the calls and all that. I notice, like Matt Moneymaker and on Finding Bigfoot and all that, thinks because that they've gained a lot of speculative information that makes him an expert. It doesn't. If you're still using call blasting and you're not refining your methodology for communication, you're not using expert scientific methods to do anything. I mean, you're just using the same methods that work, that render a response, but it's the same thing because you don't know what it means. Over time, if you're an expert within a field, you're supposed to refine through methodology, your abilities to communicate and things of that nature. Running around the woods yelling and running recordings is not an expert type process. That's what you do to start eliciting a response, but then you start to figure out the nuances in the calls. You do different things to figure out the communications, and then you spend extensive time out in the woods, and you try to gain observational information. But if you're running all over the country and you're just documenting brief encounters and all these, most of the encounters that are on the BFRO and other websites are very brief, less than a minute. So you can't garner a ton of information from something that is less than a minute. It takes time. And so for those that are habituators and things like that, I think they're going about it with a more scientific methodology than a lot of these other people that are just running around the country and trying to elicit a response. And yes, I'm guilty of that as well, doing tree knocks and making calls to see if I can get a response. And I have been successful. But I want an interaction as well. I want to have that interaction that validated to me. And that's what I had. I had that in 2009. I had something that validated to me that they're real. There's no shadow of a doubt that they're real. So it validated it for me. And I wish I lived in an area where I could do refinement and through scientific method, refining my understanding and my interactions. So they're not just chance encounters, but purposeful encounters where you have learned the communication, you have learned through trial and error how to communicate with them, learned about their social behaviors. That's real research. not running around doing tree knocks, making calls, call blasting, stuff that you don't know what it means. We don't even know what tree knocking means. We don't know if there's a number sequence or what. We don't know, So it's speculation. And experts don't come from speculation. Experts come from refining things into factual points. Even through theory. I mean, if you can come up with things that are factual in their lineage, I mean, you can figure out and connect the dots, great. But you're connecting a lot of random dots, and I see that as a big problem as well. And again, that's coming from the group mentality, because no, pun intended, monkey see, monkey do. You have a group of researchers that kind of teach this methodology, and people don't venture from it. They don't go away from it. They box themselves in, and this is the style of research they do, and they never try to advance from that. I will give BFRO that they have the most extensive sightings list on the web. Might even rival John Green, but still, they have the most extensive on the web. But that doesn't mean that they know any more than anyone else. So yeah, there's no experts. Groups are an archaic form of doing research that are politicalized and usually create a inversive paranoia towards other groups and other researchers. And yeah, I mean, through personal experience, there's certain researchers I would not associate with, but I could figure that out on my own and not through a group. I mean, I wouldn't go out researching with somebody like Tom Biscardi personally, because I just don't find him to be a honest individual. Personally, I don't think he's honest. I don't think he's in it for self-interest to learn more about them. The only thing he wants to do is become famous and rich off of this discovery. He may have had his own personal experience that led him into this, but that led him down the path of greed. And I'm not picking on Tom Biscardi per se, but that's just one of the people that are more notable as far as people that are just not well liked, because of people know who they are and what they're about. I wouldn't go out researching with Rick Dyer. I wouldn't go out researching with certain other people because I wouldn't go out with Matt Moneymaker, just because I just don't identify with them as researchers. First off, Rick Dyer, I believe, is a hoaxer. Is a known hoaxer who's pulling, I believe, another hoax. Matt Moneymaker, I just don't like his methodology, and I think he's an egomaniac. So there's just certain people that I wouldn't associate with that myself I can figure out individually. I don't need a group to kind of pick and choose who I side with and who I research with. It actually alienates people. I mean, there's certain legitimate researchers that certain groups won't associate with because they're associated with other groups. And it's like, but, their association with another group does not mean that they're a bad researcher, just means they're open-minded. So yeah, that's a problem. I mean, for me, that's why a lot of it is why, that's a lot of the reason why I got out of groups entirely. I was president of one, and I got tired of it. I got tired of the politics of it. It's like, that's not why I got into it. And it just, you know, is not a good thing. It does not advance the research. We need to get away from that. We need to really, as an individual, you can do it. You can figure it out. You don't need a group to figure out who you should associate and who you shouldn't. You know, you can do that. You don't need a group to sit there and manage you. And listen to other researchers. You know, of course, that's how you learn. But don't when you get into a group, you know, you pick up the bad habits of the group. Just as you pick up the good habits, you pick up the bad habits. And you play politics. It'd be so much better if we were doing it individually and we just work together. You know. Yeah. You know, I got into this, as I said before, without ever seeing one. And so I look for a group. And I guess it's like growing. You know, you as you grow up, you know, you go through your stages and stuff like that. And so that was my preliminary stage. I got into a group because I didn't know what to do, how to do anything. I didn't know where to go or anything. So in the beginning, there was a benefit to gaining some understanding of you know, actual field research. But as time went on, I learned that it's just so dramatized, politicalized. It's more about the group than it is what you're doing. And yeah, they all have the passion for that research, but it creates such a usually hostile environment towards certain people that just you cringe against, because, you know, they are associated with people that, you know, the group finds unwholesome for whatever reason. And you can't speak positively for them. You can't say anything in that methodology because you're automatically wrong by association. So we need to get away from that. And we need to identify the hoaxers when they come about, and we need to make sure that those that back them up and everything like that are known, exposed, and ostracized in a lot of ways. But that's an individual choice. You know, that should be an individual choice. Now, I'm not saying this is my personal opinion, you know, about Rick Dyer and those associated with him. That's my personal opinion, and you may not agree with it. You may not think that those that backed him up should be ostracized if it comes about that this is truly a hoax, which I believe it will be. But that's your choice. As a group, I'm not trying to tell you as a group. You know, I'm not saying, well, you're a part of my group, so you have to listen to me. I don't have a group. So yeah, that's the thing, is that these are my personal opinions about these different aspects. And you may enjoy the group you're in. It may be a benefit to you. You may garner something from it. But for me, because I've been in all aspects, I felt the pain and sting of losing a friend because of a group. You know, and I've lost quite a few friends. And that hurts me. It really does hurt me, because I feel it's such a stupid reason. It's such a foolish reason to lose a friend. You know, you lose a friend because of a group. For Bigfoot research? I mean, it's something that you get into because you enjoy it and because you want to find out more and because the passion should be there for that research. It shouldn't be there for the group. And it transitions, and you don't realize it. It transitions from being about the research to being about the group. And yeah, as president, you know, of the group I was with, I had to make tough decisions. And in a lot of ways, I was being coerced into making certain decisions that I didn't fully go along with, but because others in that were part of the committee of that group were going along with, you know, I went along with. Or I didn't agree, but everybody else agreed, which is democracy. But still, the fact is that, again, getting away from that, I felt so much more liberated. When I got out of the group, I felt liberated. You know, I didn't have as much stress. You know, I was being stressed, you know, to the max. And this is a time when my daughter had just been born. She was premature. We were going through all this, and it was just, you know, this group that I have to deal with. And again, I'm not going to say it's not anything a personal attack against individuals of that group. It's not an attack against the group as a whole. I'm attacking the aspects and understanding of and the reasoning of having a group, but I'm not attacking those individuals of that group or that group, and that's why I'm not naming it. Those that know me know what I'm talking about. They know the group I'm talking about. They know the individuals in that group. But for me, it was so liberating. Yeah, some people say, oh, but that's because you didn't have any more responsibility. I built a website on my own. With Johnny Henderson helping out with the materials and content, and Gene McCulley as well. But I did different things, you know, so I took on responsibility of that. So it wasn't, you know, losing responsibility was trade-off. I traded responsibilities. I traded out. I said, this is it, I'm done. Because it was just too much politics. I lost so many friends, good people, because of the political interest of the group and my status in it. And that hurts. And it's a tough life lesson, you know, that I had to learn. That now I don't have to choose sides in a lot of ways. You know, I don't associate with certain people because they're toxic. But then again, in life, you don't associate with certain individuals because they're toxic. It's not because of group association. And yeah, I learned that it doesn't have to be this way. And I think that we really, if you're part of a group and you find benefit with it, great. But understand that there are other options, that you don't need to be a part of a group, that you can work with individual researchers, you can communicate with individual researchers, gain knowledge, and not have to be a part of a political system. I really find it foolish to have such a system. I find it archaic. At one time I saw a reason and methodology to it, but now I understand that, you know, when you're young, you have that understanding. As you grow older, you understand that, yeah, I'm not saying I'm old, but as I grew older, I understood that it's just not conducive to innovative research. You know, you stick with the methodology of the group. You might experiment, but the experimentation is basically group decided, not individually decided. And you can work as a group of individuals. I mean, you know, you can work, like I said, you can work with other researchers. You don't have to be a part of a group to do that. But yeah, I changed a lot of the aspects, and I'm running on to about 1 hour and 20 minutes here. But yeah, I'm gonna end it here because I've ranted long enough. But yeah, I'm the you know, I have not talked about this too much. I haven't talked about what I left behind. But I think if it benefits people to understand that there are other options, that you don't have to be a part of a group to do research, that you know, you can write and talk to people like me and Johnny Henderson and others that are, you know, independent researchers that are just doing their own thing, and get pointers and ideas and maybe give them your own. I'm open to listen to other people, you know, and their ideas and what they do. It would be a lot better. A free sharing of information. I don't think we'll ever get to that. I think we'll always have groups, but it just creates an over-politicalized system, and I just don't see the purpose anymore. So, thanks for listening to my hour and 22-minute rant. My name is Nathan Davis. Again, I'm part of the Cryptid Studies Institute, which I founded with Johnny Henderson and Gene McCulley. Again, it's not a group. It's a free forum of information. And you can check us out at cryptidsi.org. We are also on Facebook, CryptidSI, and we also have Chasing Night Shadows, which was a radio show that we may bring back in the future. We haven't decided. But yeah, check us out. Thanks for listening, and happy Bigfooting.